What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for July 19th, 2024. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Feel Good Friday edition of the podcast. We have made it. Seems like this week was extra long with no Phillies baseball, but here we are. Phils are back. We have a 66-game sprint to the end of the season. Eagles training camp kicks off on Tuesday. It'll be fall before you know it. Not to give anybody the August scaries or anything. There's still plenty of time left in July. So let's enjoy the next couple weeks of Phils and Eagles training camp. Hopefully we get some answers on what the team is going to be. And we'll knock on wood that nobody gets hurt. But it does seem that they're going back to more of an old school style of training camp. I assume that means more hitting. Maybe some of the starters will play more in the preseason, but that all still remains to be seen. But it's all about Phils right now. They're back in Pittsburgh tonight, and Pittsburgh's a good young team. It doesn't look, as of right now, possibly Sunday he could pitch. They're going to have to face Paul Skeens, which is good. Phils should be able to take care of business. Aaron Nola is going tonight. But as I mentioned, 66 games now to the end. They sit with a half a game lead, and ultimately they're in a good position. And they had 90 wins last year. If they go 500, they'll get to 95, which is a solid, good number to have. More than some of the division-winning teams they had. 93, I know, off the top of my head, I think 2007 and 2008. I don't think they got to 95. So that's just if they go 500. They can very easily get to 100 wins if they go 38 and 28. And the team record for wins is in play, which is 102, which happened back in 2011. They go 45 and 21. They will get to 103 wins, which, again, the way they've been playing is absolutely doable. Let's hope that they can kind of keep that momentum going, get the stank of that 18-3 game from the A's out of their minds. And the All-Star game just was refreshing and allowed guys to heal up and everything like that. But I am excited for Phillies baseball to be back. There's been absolutely nothing on the past couple days. And even the British Open's on, and it's too early to even watch because by the time I get done work, they're all in bed. But Phil's Pirates tonight, I believe it's like a 6:35 start. So I am excited. So should you. Also, I'm excited. This is just completely random, off topic. It's the middle of the month, so it's not even time for accountability or anything like that. But this shirt, just a couple months ago, was way too tight to even wear. Now it fits perfectly. Today was weigh-in day. I finally broke out of the little plateau I was in and got under 260 for the first time in a long time. So I am stoked about that. Probably going to gain it all back by celebrating and eating crappy and drinking tonight. But that's okay because we can start on fresh on Monday. But I wanted to point that out because it's a comfortable shirt that I've only worn a couple times because then I put on the weight. So the fact that it fit today, I will take it. Anyway, check out my boys over the Clashing Conferences podcast. They have their baseball edition that is out. They're doing some fun things over there. And they're actually a good follow on Instagram as well. They post a lot of the behind the scenes footage and just the banner between the guys. So give them a follow on Instagram, but be sure to check them out wherever you get your podcasts as well as on YouTube, the Clashing Conferences podcast. And while you're at it, get ready for this Phillies playoff push. Eagles are opening up training camp. Go to Philly Goat and check out all of the shirts and shoes and hats and everything they have. It's back to school. I know the kids like to put stickers on their water bottle. They have a ton of Philly-centric stickers to put on the Philly bottles, or the water bottles as well. So go to phillygoat.com. Be sure to use the promo code Jim Montgomery, all one word, to take 10% off your order. That will help me out and let Ryan over at Philly Goat know that you are a listener. Sixers return to Summer League action tonight. Looking for McCain to really get more consistent with his shooting. I was reading in the Inquirer this morning that he's not that concerned about it. He's trying to get his feet under him, and I think you can tell just by the way he's attacking and the way he's been playing that once the shots start to fall, because basically shooters go through slumps just like baseball players. So shooters are shooters, and he is a shooter, but he's kind of, by not having it right now in Summer League, it's allowing him to work on the other aspects of his game. So definitely something that's going to benefit him once the season starts. And I wanted to say condolences to Pat Williams' family. He was the former Sixers general manager that helped build that 82-83 championship team, constructed them and built them to 4 NBA Finals. He was the one that realized they needed Moses Malone to get over the hump. And he also is the co-founder of the Orlando Magic, but a true Philly guy. Pat Williams passed away on Monday. Or, I'm sorry, not Monday. I guess it would have been Wednesday. So condolences to his family. But Pat Williams, a Philly legend, helped construct that 82-83 championship team, has passed away. All right, today we're going to go back to 1966. And on this day in 1966, Phillies lost to the Astros 8-2 in the Astrodome down in Houston. Tony Taylor was the lone bright spot for the Phillies. He went 2 for 4 with a double, triple, RBI, and a run scored. But this game is memorable, though, because it was the first game in Major League Baseball history that was played entirely on Astroturf. So the whole field was made out of Astroturf. Up until this point, when the Astrodome opened, it was just the infield, and then the outfield was grass. And I know they were trying to figure out ways to get the Astroturf out there because they couldn't keep the grass fresh. Obviously, Astroturf and I guess artificial turf has evolved over the years. Now, those that use the artificial surface, it's more of like a synthetic base. If you remember when the Eagles were at the vet, the Phillies were at the vet, they had the next turf. It had the little pebbles or whatever in it. And you even see that now in some of the stadiums for football anyway, where guys will make sliding catches and you see the pebbles go up. Most stadiums recently, though, have been going back to grass. Even in Arizona and Vegas, which those stadiums are equipped, it's pretty cool. They have the turf is on like a tray that slides out. They're able to water it and keep it where it needs to go. And then when it's time for game time, they'll slide it back in, which is pretty cool. But I guess the Philly connection, other than them playing in the first game of a field totally made of AstroTurf, is who could forget the legend of the Veterans Stadium turf? Ended many careers. Remember Wendell, who was the guy? I want to say Turk Wendell, but that was the guy for the Phillies. But Wendell Davis, maybe. I know his first name was Wendell, but he was on the Bears, tore both of his knees on the same play, jumping up for a ball. Michael Irvin's career ended in Philly when he got his head driven into the turf. And if you've ever been down on the vet field, I was able to go down a couple times while at Temple. Specifically, I remember we saw a Tribe Called Quest after the game. We'll get into that a different time. But it was pretty much like concrete. So if you've ever been to somebody's house or in their basement where they had like the indoor-outdoor green carpet over top of like their cement patio, that was basically the vet turf. There was not a ton of cushion in there at all. So I get why people thought that it was like a good home field advantage for the Eagles at the time. But they did eventually put the next turf in, and both stadiums now have the artificial or the natural grass. But I remember too the preseason game with the cardboard cutouts because it was a multi-purpose stadium. In the preseason game, it was our first game as season ticket holders, and the cutouts had divots. I don't know, like bigger than pothole size, and they ended up having to cancel that game. But there is your Philly connection to artificial turf. Hands down, the worst turf ever in the league, and at many of careers. And I feel like, if I'm remembering correctly, there's a lot of times free agents didn't want to come to Philly to play, in part because of the turf, in part because the stadium was a dump and the training facilities were crappy too. But thankfully, we have two of the best, I think, stadiums now in either league. So all of that because on this day in 1966, the Phillies and Astros played the first game ever on a field made entirely of AstroTurf, both the infield and the outfield, with the Astros winning 8-2. All right, it is time for the ultimate Philly sports nickname tournament. Let's quickly recap yesterday's matchups before we get into today's, and we'll update the other sides of the brackets. Out of the cheesesteak region, this game came down to the wire. I checked the results multiple times during the day, and at any given time, either one of these nicknames were winning. But at the end of the day, it was the answer. The number 3 seed, Allen Iverson, the answer, knocked out the number 2 seed, Legion of Doom, with 52% of the vote. Some overnight TikTok votes came in and won it for Allen Iverson. So Allen Iverson moves on to the Elite 8. And then out of the Ben Franklin region, it was all Broad Street Bullies winning with 68% of the vote. So the number 1 seed, Broad Street Bullies, moves on. World Be Free and the Legion of Doom are out. So Allen Iverson and the Broad Street Bullies are our first nicknames to be into the Elite 8. Today we're going to look at the Balboa and the Schuylkill region and the teams in that bracket. So out of the Schuylkill, you have Concrete Charlie, the 1 seed, taking on the Axeman, the 4 seed. That will be later today. And then you have the number 2 seed, Dr. J, taking on the number 3 seed, Chooch. And then over in the Balboa region, it's the number 1 seed, the Executioner, taking on the number 5 seed, Weapon X. And then the number 2 seed, Flying Hawaiian, taking on the number 3 seed, Minister of Defense. And for all of the crap and the emails and the feedback I got, for the most part, the seeding was pretty spot on. A couple underseeded, Smoking Joe making a nice little run as a 6 seed, but very chalky. The top nicknames, the nicknames that should have moved on, have moved on. So I will give myself a little pat on the back in the selection committee. I'll give you guys a shout out too, even though the selection committee was me. Anyway, let's get into the Sweet 16 action. Let's start in the Balboa region. The number 1 seed, the Executioner, takes on the number 5 seed, Weapon X. 2 Philly legends, Bernard Hopkins versus Brian Dawkins. And what can I say about Bernard Hopkins that I have not said already? Champion at 2 different weight classes, middle and light heavyweight. Had the 20 straight title defenses. The oldest to win a title 3 separate times. Last at like age 49. Nobody probably will ever beat that or even come close to that. Compiled a 55 8-2-2 record with 32 KOs. He overcame some mistakes he made as a kid. Was in prison, came out and said, I'm never coming back to this place. And sure enough, he never did. International Boxing Hall of Fame, Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. Got his nickname because of his speed and precision, but I think for me, the thing that really escalates this nickname is the fact that his getup and his whole entrance and ensemble, wearing the hood, putting his X's up. I keep mentioning that, but if you've never seen Bernard Hopkins' intro before a fight, be sure to check it out. And it didn't matter what, he always switched up the song he came out to, and it always was intimidating. I think at one point he came out to Frank Sinatra's My Way, and it still was intimidating. So YouTube, not Roy Jones, Bernard Hopkins' entrance, and you'll see what I mean. The reason I mentioned Roy Jones is that was one of those dream fights that we always wanted to see. Roy Jones beat Bernard Hopkins earlier in his career, right before Hopkins really got good. So it was soon after he got out of prison. And then as he got better, Roy Jones, for whatever reason, he always claimed it was money. And maybe this is my Bernard Hopkins bias coming out, but I always felt that Roy Jones was ducking him, didn't want to have anything to do with fighting. And Bernard Hopkins was like, yo, I want a 50-50 split or whatever it was. And Roy Jones was just like, no. And I obviously money did play a role in it because they did fight late in both of their careers. And I remember watching that fight, getting excited, and then being disappointed because it wasn't even close. Roy Jones at the time was just a shell of himself. But that was the one dream match I would have loved to have seen when Bernard Hopkins was at his peak, and so was Roy Jones. And to his credit, Bernard Hopkins always said, I'll move up weight class. I don't care. Like, I just want that fight. But Bernard Hopkins, the Executioners, are 1 seed out of the Balboa region. And then out of the 5 seed then in the Balboa region is Weapon X, Brian Dawkins, the heart and soul of that Eagles team, the emotional leader, the guy that would get everybody hyped up without even cursing, which is still amazing. That guy still say he would curse you out without saying a curse word. To everybody that has ever said that story said it's more intimidating than if you'd have just dropped a few F-bombs, to be honest. But four-time first-team All-Pro with the Eagles, 7-time Pro Bowler. He's on the NFL 75th anniversary team. His number 20 is retired in Philly, hanging in the rafters at the Link. He's a Hall of Famer. He's in the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. He had that game with a sack, interception, fumble recovery, and a touchdown. Nickname stems from the Marvel Comics from X-Men Wolverine. It's his alter ego, Weapon X. Did finally get a Super Bowl ring as a member of the front office on the Eagles in Super Bowl 52. But the thing with Dawkins that really set him apart from everyone else is he really took on, just like Bernard Hopkins came out in the ensemble, I think when he came out of that tunnel, Brian Dawkins really took on that whole Weapon X persona. Whether it's his speeches, I need everything, every doggone thing you got. The hits, whether it's Algie Crumpler, Mike Vick, Jerome Bettis, the Superman tackle against the Giants, coming up with big plays. He had the interception when Brett Favre threw up the lollipop. I guess he was trying to throw it away in the 4th and 26 game. And then just he came out with so much energy during those introductions. Obviously a fan favorite. This is going to be a tough one. This should be another one of those ones that goes down to the wire. But now it's your turn. Who is the better Philly sports nickname? Is it the Executioner or Weapon X? 267-495-8531. That'll get you in to the Back to the Future voice and text line. Vote on your favorite Philly sports nickname. Get anything else Philly sports related off your chest. What is your prediction for the second half of the Phillies? Do they get to 100 wins? Do they break the team record? Do they fall apart? Whatever you got, it's fair game. 267-495-8531. You can also hit me up on social media. Jimbo_Mont at Twitter and TikTok, at Philly Jimbo on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn. Email me, comment right there on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, whatever you got to do, but get that vote in. And now we're moving over to the Schuylkill region. I apologize for that. This cold just will not go away. But over in the Schuylkill region, the number 1 seed is Concrete Charlie, taking on the number 4 seed, the Axeman, in a battle of Eagles. This should be a good one as well. Let's start with Chuck Bednarik. And as I've been saying for him, he is one of the last of the two-way players. And he once said it took him 20 years to realize what he did. He just kind of took it for granted. He would play 58 minutes a game. He didn't play on kickoffs. He just said, they said, go out and play, and that's what I did. He played 58 minutes in the 1960 NFL Championship game. Played a big role in that. But I really did like that part of the quote. They just told me to go out and play, and that's what I did. He did technically retire in 1959. The Eagles actually had a ceremony for him the last game of the season in 1959. And he felt he had nothing left to prove. He was a first ballot Hall of Famer. He had won a championship back in 1949, his rookie year. And like I said, they had the ceremony and he was ready to just ride off into the sunset. And then that off season, his wife gave birth to their 5th kid, and he needed some money, obviously, because diapers and baby food and all that other good stuff are expensive. They offered him $15,000 to come back and play in 1960. He said, sure. He liked Norm Van Brocklin, felt he liked the direction of the team. Why not? He thought he was only going to play center anyway, which to him, he said that was one of the easiest positions to play physically. So he's like, I'll come back for $15,000 and play. Unfortunately, due to injury, he was forced to go back to playing both ways, and it all worked out for Concrete Charlie. It all worked out for the Eagles as they won the championship in 1960. Got his nickname because he was a concrete salesman in the offseason, although I still think that Concrete Charlie fits not only, I guess, because he was a concrete salesman, but just the way he played. I think that he personifies the nickname. And I think all of our guys in today's matchups personify their nickname, whether it's the Executioner, Weapon X, Concrete Charlie, or the Axeman. They just, you can see that. And I know I'm not doing an English lesson here, but they totally personify that nickname. And to me, Chuck Bednarik, along with Brian Dawkins, are two of the four guys on the Eagles' Mount Rushmore. But he's taken on another Eagles legend, the Axeman Jeremiah Trotter. Got his name because of his axe celebration to honor his late father. And when I say he personifies the Axeman, growing up as a kid, that is what Jeremiah Trotter did. He chopped wood with his dad to help make some extra money for the family. Cool story about Trotter and the way that whole situation played out with him. When he left after the 2001 season, I forgot just how contentious the relationship was between him and the Eagles. He ripped Andy Reid in the media, was not happy with the way certain things had played out. We're not happy with them not wanting to pay him. If you remember, there was and it's still true to this day, that the Eagles don't necessarily pay their linebackers. And Trotter was like, "You're kidding me. It's disrespect, all this." To their credit, the front office was not very happy with Jeremiah Trotter either. He went down to Washington, where it was a disaster. He played on the Steve Spurrier teams. Man, poor Axeman there. But after Joe Gibbs came back out of retirement to coach the Washington team, he cut Jeremiah Trotter, who was only 27, and to his credit, he called up Andy Reid, who happened to be on vacation with his family, apologized, said, "I would love to come back. I'll come back for the veteran minimum, which at the time was $600,000. I will play backup and special teams. All I want is an opportunity," and was very apologetic about the whole situation. Andy Reid, okay, but you're going to be a backup. We have guys here. You're going to be a special teams, as long as you're willing to do that. And he was. And to his credit, again, he gave his all and really excelled on special teams for the Eagles. All he wanted was an opportunity, and he did get that opportunity early in 2004 when the defense kind of struggled a little bit. I mean, they were undefeated, so it's hard to say the defense was struggling that much. But once Trotter got put back into Jim Johnson's defense, the defense excelled. He helped solidify it and was a huge part of their Super Bowl and their playoff run to Super Bowl 39. And to me, that is just symbolic of Jeremiah Trotter, the man. He's just a stand-up guy. And the Axeman now is our number 4 seed out of the Schuylkill region. And I still say, if they only had him in 2002 instead of him going down to Washington, we might have a couple more Super Bowls than what we have right now. But now it's your turn. Which is the better Philly sports nickname? Out of the Schuylkill region, number 1 seed, Concrete Charlie taking on the Axeman. And out of Balboa, it is the Executioner taking on Weapon X. Get your votes in, 267-495-8531. That'll get you into the Back to the Future voice and text line. Get the vote out there. Get the word about the podcast out there. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont. Tell your friends. Let's grow this thing. Have some fun things lined up coming soon. But let's continue to grow this thing. We're slowly getting there. It's a slow burn, which, again, we've talked on Tuesdays about. Anything worth doing is worth doing well. You just got to be patient. We're getting there, but I need you to help spread the word. This day in Philly sports history. Speaking of this day in Philly sports history, on this day in 1966, the Eagles and Astros played the first Major League Baseball game on an entire field made of Astroturf, both the infield and the outfield. The Astros beat the Phillies that day 8-2, and the Phillies are back, baby. They get underway out in Pittsburgh tonight. I cannot wait. Let's get that team record. Let's win the division, and let's bring home another World Series championship, boys. What do you say? This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for July 19th, 2024. I'm Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Friday, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.